name is Sherwin Rio. I'm an interdisciplinary artist, currently based in San Francisco, California, but I'm originally from Jacksonville, Florida. As an interdisciplinary artist, I work in all kinds of media, sculpture, performance, installation-based work, and some two-dimensional things as well. So I'm here currently at the Josephine Sculpture Park in Frankfort, Kentucky. I'm here through the International Sculpture Center Artist Residency. During my time here, I've been researching, reading about, and getting plugged into local community dialogue surrounding racial equity, and white nationalist supremacists, and anti-white nationalist supremacist kind of conversations that are happening in the work that's being done here, striving for racial equity. And the work that I'm creating is called "The Spirit's Work is Shared Lifting." It's a response and it's a metaphor for these kinds of community dialogues that have to happen through community effort, through community conversation, and through community imagination. And so this piece is a reimagined Filipino bayanihan, which means community spirit. It's a word that is applied to any kind of community work or a community. I scratch your back, you scratch my back, because we're together on this. And so it's a monument base made out of limestone, and it's engraved. It's raised up on 4 reinforced pallets, and that's placed at the top of sawhorses. Coming out of the pallets will be 8 to 10 handles, long poles that come out from every side. And the idea is that this limestone monument base can only be lifted and placed into its more permanent location through a community effort, through 8 to 12 people carrying this thing on their shoulders and in their hands, walking in step together. And it's a way for, I hope that viewers might see this piece and imagine a future, imagine a future built atop of this monument pedestal, to imagine a more dignified and a more reciprocative future, one that more appropriately calls to mind the kind of ways that people of color have helped build America, and the ways that people of color and immigrants and migrants and how they can contribute to, or how they do contribute, how they do contribute to society now, and the things that we can learn from them and learn from their knowledge. So my piece, "The Spirit's Work is Shared Lifting," it's kind of an unusual location for the Josephine Sculpture Park. We're positioned right now in the middle of a meadow that's being restored right now. It's in the restoration process. We're in a field kind of in the entrance of the park. This used to be a tobacco field, and then after that it became a cornfield, and Josephine Sculpture Park currently is under the process of killing all of the invasive plants here, and beginning next year we'll begin planting Kentucky kind of native seeds, so that a restoration process can happen, and this would become more of a meadow. And we chose this spot because the piece is about transition. The piece is about transitioning from the past into the future, and in that way thinking about the present. And so I wanted this piece to be to feel like it's in motion, that it's in flux, it's always becoming, it's always moving, it's going somewhere, and it came from somewhere. And so this meadow is a particularly really great spot for it, because the sculpture seems like it's out of place. It seems like that it's being walked from the entryway to the old historic tobacco barn that's kind of behind us here. That is also under restoration process as well. And so this piece is in the middle of land that's always developing and changing, and will have new growth and new changes. And so that this piece might kind of tap into that motion, tap into that kind of fluctuation of change and fluctuation of past, present, and future. I've been here about 4.5 weeks now, And when I got here, the kind of idea was that I wouldn't really come here with too much of anything in motion or a plan. Really, I came here wanting to respond to the space, especially if I'm creating a site-specific work that would live here on the premises. That I would come here and respond, act like a sponge and learn and then tap into. And so during the 4.5 weeks that I've been here, the work has kind of developed and changed quite a bit. It's gone through fluctuations from sculpture made out of tarp, sculpture that would respond to the wind and the landscape, and to more conceptual things like hidden sculpture, sculpture that's obscured from vision during its duration, and now coming all the way to this kind of development, this kind of presentation of the community spirit work that's being done here. A part of that too that's really important to acknowledge is the way that the Josephine Sculpture Park staff and interns, as well as friends, have helped me, the community surrounding this kind of sculpture park. I've, in that process of mashing out different ideas, I was fully in dialogue with different kinds of folk that I'm meeting here, and mashing this work into what it is now. And so, it's through an effort of collaboration that I've come up to this piece, and especially with the help of Mel and Jerry, as well as the interns here, Josh, Jackie, Alex, Taylor, and Riley. So much help has kind of been there for me and supported me through this process, and we've all bounced ideas surrounding this piece together, and so it's a mesh. It's a collaborative mesh. I'm building the piece out of sawhorses that were fabricated here on site, that were built to the specifications of found sawhorses here. The wood aspects of the piece were all found materials here as well. I've found pallet wood and found barn wood that's gone into reinforcing that, as well as wood that's been left behind as scrap material, and the metal as well that have gone into the sawhorses were all found here on the premises, on the site. And the limestone, limestone was really important for me to use in this piece because of Frankfort's historical industry. Thinking of the way that limestone and timber are both mineral resources here that helped begin industrial Frankfort, and so I wanted to kind of hearken to that idea of building on top of this mineral resource here that's in the ground, that's in the land, and it's with the people. However, I also wanted to kind of call to mind this that the conversation is not just happening here in Frankfort, but in the surrounding areas. And so I'm actually using this Indiana limestone, just found on the border of Indiana and Kentucky, to kind of reiterate that this is not just a conversation that's happening here in Kentucky, but in a larger part of the United States, and frankly, on a national scale as well. That these kinds of conversations and this kind of community work and this kind of community lifting and dialogue and community imagination, reimagining the future as something more just and something more dignified and reciprocative, that's a conversation that should be happening on a large scale, and that is being modeled here in Frankfort.